things that were cool.
Well, no, but wouldn't that be the opposite of history? I like this thing after it was cool. But here we go.
You were
Champion
looking up
select.
brass
I was
tags.
looking at brass tags. Brass tacks, TACKS, not taxes in taxation.
Okay.
Here we are, champ select.
Rengar's banned.
Game number 2, Rengar's banned right off the bat. Troopers versus Fornot. And we'll be able to take a look at that.
Yep. And I like it when I'm right. And with that Rengar ban, I'm feeling pretty good. He's really
pretty
strong
confident.
right now. Yeah.
Gonna go home and, just be satisfied.
Just be satisfied. Sleep well tonight, knowing tomorrow that I was right.
Knowing tomorrow is a new day.
Yeah, and Alistar banned. Just get rid of it.
He's just so overpowered in that mid lane.
He really is.
They were like, oh my, gosh, we can't allow Chuuper to have this because we're not going to first pick him. It is kind of interesting. One Bad Brad, when he was a jungler, he always used to like playing Alistar, and he always played those really aggressive junglers. So now that, jungling's moved away from that, he's not in the jungle anymore, so I'm gonna allow. But we'll see how this team kind of works out. They banned Ezreal as well, and Ezreal is actually a lot of times usually don't want to first pick Ezreal. You kind of want to. He's usually a really good second or third pick because there's usually something like Nunu right now that is very strong. Nunu, Sona, something that you want, and Ezreal usually hits the second or third pick. They don't want to allow Chuuper to have that because Chuuper has proven himself to be a really strong AD in the past. So we'll see what they go with. I would expect the Nunu here though because Sona is a very strong pick, but if they're struggling against a Graves Blitzcrank lane with Sona, then they might as well go with Nunu because Nunu's just so tanky and shuts down lanes, but instead they go with the Graves.
Yeah, that makes me think that they're just going for the sure thing in the situation. They know that they can play Graves well. And
they know they can play either Nunu or Sona, which one they don't pick up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are some circumstances where we see teams picking up Nunu and Sona as the second and third picks, which I definitely understand. And the reason that Nunu comes out first so much is the flexibility in the role going between jungle and support. Right. But here we're seeing Blitzcrank again. I mean, from what it sounds like, of course, we didn't see the first game. Very sad. But what we did see, Blitzcrank was doing a mighty fine job at putting a lot of pressure in that bot lane for Chuuper's Troopers. So Blitzcrank, such an annoying champion to play against, of course, with the extremely strong level 1 ganks, which we actually didn't see last game, which is interesting, I thought, as well. But I wonder what we'll see out of Blitzcrank for this game.
Yeah, and they're actually going for the Jace as well, potentially. I think that's probably a strong pick. Usually when you're on the blue side for top lane, you want to pick something that you know is very versatile, goes with your team comp. So you pick for your team comp and then pick something that you know you can just lane anything against, since you're usually going to be counterpicked by the enemy team. Jace doesn't really have anything that really counterpicks him. So will be a very strong lane regardless, but we'll see where they pick up. I'm a little bit surprised they're not going with their jungler here, and they're actually going with Lulu, and Graves and Lulu is a very common swap lane. So that's a really strong push lane. Lulu as a support, one of her big strengths is that she can push lanes very quickly, and so can Graves. So that actually might be a swap, and Jace is very strong in the 1v2. So Chuuper right now, they have to keep that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the damage from Lulu and then the buckshot from Graves allows you to basically 2-shot minion waves, and so the Glitter Lance, so the Glitter Lance and Graves together, it's just so much clearing ability. You control the lane, and when you're in a 2v1 and you're looking to just push, that is an excellent combo to do that with. And right now we're looking at Chuuper bouncing back and forth between two rather uncommon ADs, Varus and Vayne. We haven't seen a whole lot of Vayne lately.
Yeah, Vayne has kind of dropped off. I mean, it's the skill set for Vayne is very difficult. You always have to consider whether or not a player picks Vayne. I kind of expect the Corki because we've seen Chuuper play Corki in the past, and he's just a really common AD. But they could go with a number of things. Vayne as a champion, you know, her attack range and animation and everything, it kind of makes it difficult early on in the laning phase. But once she gets going, she's almost unstoppable. But they go with the Draven. So welcome to the League of Draven.
Well, that was pretty good.
Thank you.
No, I was kidding. It wasn't good. Okay.
He's looking at me. He's just like with this glare in his eyes. Just absolutely disgust.
Yeah, but Draven coming out for Chuuper, you know, pretty good champion, pretty unconventional, does rather well in the laning phase. I remember you were saying that once he came out that he was basically
level 1 and 2, he beats almost everyone in lane.
Yeah, he's very strong early game. So, but it falls off a little bit in that late game because he focuses so much on that single target, except for his ultimate. But I mean, he's really a lot about single target damage, and so that can be a real issue in the late game.
Yeah, that's true. He is a single target DPSer, and also the lack of mobility. He has a lot of movement speed, so that makes him very strong at. He's great at snowballing fights.
Yeah.
If you have a team that can just press a fight very early on, he can run people down and pick up all of those extra kills, and he does work well with Blitzcrank. But later on, if you have a team that can initiate on him and make him uncomfortable, he loses his damage quickly. So someone like Graves, he could still use his abilities and then kind of run away and get his damage off, even if against a really aggressive team. Draven just kind of has to turn tail and run and, show himself for the coward that he is.
Yeah.
But
he's a little bit of a risk
right.
in this situation, but I mean, Chuuper annihilated first game. It was a quick game. They can take the risk. They're up a game.
And that's a tough lane to go against.
Yeah.
Like, Chuuper could just, crush whoever they're playing in lane. They've already, showed last game they were doing pretty well. But Draven and Blitzcrank is such an aggressive lane. They could really, manhandle a team that's not ready for it.
Absolutely. And so we're also seeing the Mundo pick in jungle. Mundo,
or, the other pick that we're seeing, V-Man7. He's a risk taker. He is a pioneer. He is, the traveler of forgotten realms and weird seducer of women. That's how I end.
Weird expressions that I've never heard before. But yeah, he's taken another risk. Well, it's not as big because we have seen a lot more Evelynn being played in the mid. She's very much. She's really strong at roaming, and she can push the lane pretty hard and then roam rather safely. So we see more Evelynn in Europe, actually, and maybe in Asia, too. IG has played Evelynn in some of our matches.
And it is interesting in ranked a lot. So Evelynn is very strong in solo queue, and V-Man7 is primarily a solo queue player, and he has been for the longest time. He hasn't really been on any teams in the past. He's kind of hopped around a bit, but he's been one of the top players on the ladder for since the beginning of Season 1, really.
Yeah, and because he's such a solo queue player, his emphasis is on that. It doesn't surprise me that he's going to pick a champion that he's really successful with solo queue, but it's safe, like we were talking about. They took a little bit of a risk in the first game. I can't come forward and say V-Man is playing all kinds of Alistar in solo queue because that's probably not accurate.
No idea.
Yeah, but Evelynn is a strong champion right now, and solo queue does pretty good with the roaming, and so I'm not totally surprised to see Evelynn, especially with Draven in that bot lane. Very immobile champion.
Right, that's actually
not
a
lot
good
of
point.
displacement or not a lot of escape. So the roaming from Evelynn is going to be really strong going against Draven in that bot.
And he's running a lot of ability power, some mana regen, not a lot of survivability though. So the lack of magic resistance, it could be a weakness against Orianna. We'll have to see. Evelynn, the range on her Q though, since the change, is so long. You can use it for farming fairly easily.
Yeah.
21 and 0, 0 and 9. So she's going to be able to kind of stay out of range of Orianna a little bit and be pretty safe in that lane. Jace, because of his strength in lane, he tends to be very strong as a split pusher a lot of times. And that split pushing, you want to have a really long laning phase with Evelynn because you want to have a lot of time to run around and pick up a lot of kills. And, Jace has that opportunity where he can just stall the game a little bit, just stall in his lane and allow V-Man to just roam around and try and pick up kills left and right. So we'll see where they're going. And I Am Terror actually going with Lee Sin top. So Shyvana in the jungle versus Mundo, both, they used to be, around the I Am Kiev time, the most popular junglers. Lee Sin was the most popular top lane at that time. So we're going back in time to the days of yore.
Days of yore.
Yeah, I remember they are very strong.
I remember after Kiev, with Hotshot came forward and said, Voyboy really figured something out with this Lee Sin top. Like, this is really opening up the lane. We're seeing what top lane should actually look like with Lee Sin. But since then, kind of fell off quite a bit. I mean, he was good for a while. I know Zion Spartan was all about Lee Sin for a long time, and so we'll see how it goes in this game. Especially if we're looking at a lane swap situation.
Yeah.
So it's going to be.
Well, if it's a lane swap, then Lee Sin is, that's going to be a dangerous situation for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
He could range farm a little bit with his Q. He could jump in with his shield, but I don't know. It would be very difficult for him. He also doesn't have very good wave clearing, so Graves and Lulu could push into him. Though at the same time, Jace is usually good in a 1v2, but Draven and Blitzcrank is a pretty scary 1v2.
Absolutely.
So if Blitz ever hits a hook, someone's going to die. And that's like true of almost any lane that they're in, just because of how much follow-up damage Draven has.
Yeah, and Jace, though, will farm a lot better than Lee Sin, of course, because he is a ranged champion. So if I was Fornot in this situation, I'd definitely be looking to push that 2v1 because of the strength of that solo lane like you were talking about, James. It's going to be... It's going to be difficult for Lee Sin in that situation with the lane swap.
Yeah, so we'll see what they can do. Mid lane should be kind of interesting. It's usually pretty difficult to pressure Evelynn. When she uses abilities, you do come out of stealth for a little bit, so that's kind of an opportunity to try and gank her, but a lot of times it's very easy for her to escape. She has movement speed boost with her W. She can sit around lane in Viz, and you just won't have any means of engaging on her. And once she gets some ability power, once she gets Deathfire's Grasp, she can almost insta-kill, she can insta-kill most champions in the game. Like, it's really just devastating how much damage she does, and it's kind of difficult to shut down. But a lot of that you see is in an unorganized setting. She's difficult to shut down when you don't have an organized team to keep an eye on her. So we'll see how this differs. They can get up some pink wards in some of the normal routes to try and shut her down, not allow her to get in range. Once she's in range of you, you can see her still, but you still kind of want pink wards in the river so that you can keep an eye on her. Keep an eye mid. If Orianna pushes very aggressively, then it'll force Evelynn into a situation where you always have vision of her, because if she's not farming under tower, then she's very obviously gone. Like there's not a ambiguous situation where you're like, I don't know whether or not she's here. So you need really good communication to call that out and not allow her to get any early kills. And then early ganks, if you can catch her out of position, always work.
Yeah, definitely. And I actually really like the Mundo pick out of JD Woot in this situation. Or is JD what? JD Woot?
I thought it was JD Woo, and so I was thinking JD Woot.
Okay, maybe it's
JDWoot.com.
Maybe JD Woot. That sounds pretty good. But for JD Woot, I mean, picking Mundo in this situation, what he was suffering from last game was he took a lot of risk in trying to get those early ganks and put him behind. But Mundo is someone who actually does really well with that early Heart of Gold. Occasionally you can get Philo Stone on Mundo, and that gold per 10 is going to help him out to be a little bit more aggressive in lane. And the early game damage, you were talking about this the other day too, the early game damage out of Mundo is quite substantial.
Yeah.
So and look at this, Draven up top in position for that lane swap, so I actually like that a lot.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious whether or not they'll send Lee Sin down bot, because right now that's kind of where they're positioning themselves. That's where it looks like they might head, and Blitzcrank could go up top, because I think they are expecting that lane swap.
Yeah.
And with Graves and Lulu, they're starting to make their way up top as well. So Fornot actually is going for the lane swap, but Troopers, they're way ahead of them. They're 2 steps and a hop, skip, and a leap ahead, so they're ready for it. They're streets ahead currently.
Streets ahead. Yeah, absolutely. Nicely said. But yeah, there's so many mind games that come in with that lane swapping idea. Like, if you're expecting it, then you can go top and prepare for it. But if you're expecting it and they know you're expecting it, they can actually go bottom and force that 2v1. So it's a lot of it is a guessing game about knowing which lane you think your opponent's going to be in, and in that, if you guess wrong, then and you have to transition or switch out of it, you're going to be put behind, and that can be a serious issue for your solo laner.
Yeah, and right now they are actually going to go for the mini golems up top. So Draven and Blitzcrank, they will have a slight level advantage over Graves and Lulu, and they're actually sitting in the bush. They don't exactly know who's in the lane yet. I think they might want to catch someone out, just get some quick burst damage as they walk in the lane. And particularly if it's Lee Sin, take them by surprise. But they do see it's Draven. He actually walks right into it, gets the quick flash. So they already forced the flash out of Chuuper, and they didn't actually miss any CS as well as a result of it.
Yeah, that was really good. And Chuuper being a little bit careless there, with Draven, with the lack of escape, had to blow that flash really early. So that's going to put him in a bad position. That's Draven's only means to get out. So that's going to leave him open for a level 2 gank, which is Mundo, where he's going right now to position himself for.
Yeah, and Blitzcrank should be able to throw a little body block to shut him down, but it's going to be tough if he gets in range. They could really quickly pick up the kill, and he is moving in. Kelsey Jeong going after Parole, but the exhaust onto Chuuper, and with the Mundo follow-up, he's going to die very quickly. There's the first blood, and he actually stops. He allows Parole to have it. So rather than snowballing the jungle, they're comfortable with snowballing that lane. In the meantime, Nick Wu coming after V-Man, and Dagon trying to get some vision on him still so that they can press that, but he will have to back off.
Yeah, I actually really like that that early gank from Mundo. The thing about Mundo is he gets really...
You called it, so...
Yeah, I called it, so of course I like it. But Mundo gets really low health in the early stages of the jungle if he chooses just farm instead of trying to do ganks. Oh, and Jace, what are you doing, you crazy guy?
He can't pick up the kill, but Nikwu's turning around with the exhaust, with the red buff. He's very close to picking it up. The flash from one bad Brad, but he is in a disadvantageous position, and we'll see what kind of pressure Nikwu can start to put on the map. But Fornot, big turnaround from the previous game. They have a slight advantage in their top lane as opposed to last game when they fell behind early. Bot lane should be in their advantage as well, Jace versus Lee Sin, but Jace putting himself behind with that teleport, so he's actually missing out on some CS. I Am Terra is slightly ahead, and then he doesn't have his flash anymore.
Yeah, flash and teleport both gone, so that's going to put him, and both summoners, that's a nice little trade for Chuupers to being that far ahead, so... and it's going to give Lee Sin, like you said, a little bit of opportunity to get ahead. Oh, and the grab from Blitz, the knockup on Lulu. But they need to get out of there because that is not a safe place to be right now.
Yeah, and they're pressuring them very aggressively before Blitzcrank has enough damage to tank anything. And while his summoners are down, they can be extremely aggressive in that lane. So we'll see how that kind of snowballs. V-Man 7 slightly behind Dagon, and the harass from Orianna can be very dangerous. But once you get in the game as Eve, it's really difficult to shut down an Eve through the mid portion of the game. But already Dagon, just that quick harass, the QW, will be able to wear V-Man down. And he's at such a dangerous spot right now where Orianna could maybe pick up another kill.
Yeah, and the poke from Orianna is really strong. And those auto attacks, of course, from the passive, strong as well. So Orianna able to do some work on Evelynn if Evelynn is not careful. Is going to be in real trouble, and she's just so squishy too. Not to say that Orianna isn't, but in this particular matchup, it's bad news for Evelynn. But here comes Mundo, going to try to make something happen. Evelynn trying to do poke, just do and a little bit not die, but
ooh, dodging the cleaver with that ward, and he's almost picking up V-Man. He does grab it with the kill, and he's out of range of Mundo, so he will be able to get out of there. And in the meantime, Nikwu, he had been waiting in the bot lane. They were able to bait in Jace for that kill down there. Actually, I'll take a look at that real quick and see how Jace went down. You know, as he's being a little bit too aggressive, walks right into Nikwu, who's waiting in the bush for him.
Yeah, and that's... Shyvana isn't known as the strongest of junglers, but just enough damage to get in from Lee Sin to close that gap and just hammer at those last hits. Oh, and the flash just to make sure that he gets it. And that's what Lee Sin needs to go against Jace in that bot lane. Because of the ranged poke from Jace, Lee Sin has a little bit of a disadvantage. So if you leverage that lead, that's really good. But meanwhile, look at the tower damage going on against Chuuper's tower. Really low already.
It's almost down already, and then they could swap down into the bottom lane and continue to pressure them. So just so much pressure from Fornot.
Yeah, that's that pushing lane for you right there. Even in a situation where you're not in a 2v1, the buckshot and the glitter lance clears waves really quick and puts you in a great position to push as well as do some early damage to that tower. So now, I mean, it's even more risky to hug that tower because the jungler could come in, they could blast on that tower really quick and make a big play in the top lane.
I have to say that one thing that's really interesting, Dagon, his laning has been so strong with this Orianna, and he knows that he has the damage advantage versus Evelynn, and then he can shield himself and get away fairly easily. So rather than sitting back here and just kind of playing a normal laning phase and waiting until he sees V-Man, he runs straight at V-Man and just zones him off the minion wave because he knows, all right, if V-Man is sitting over in this sort of area to farm, then if I run at him, I'm eventually either going to get vision or force him away from the minion wave. So he's actually just been forcing V-Man out off of the minion wave and just completely shutting down that lane.
Yeah, and just I really like how Orianna is just freezing the lane, sitting back and waiting for Evelynn to approach, and it's forcing Evelynn to just go and farm wraiths and do some other farming there out of lane. But oh, Graves flashing out, not going to get caught. And Chuuper's just looks like just farming and pushing that top lane down with the help from Shyvana.
Yeah, once again, you see Dagon just positioning himself on the other side of the wave, never allowing V-Man to get inside. But Shyvana, the ult is down, but they could come around for another pass and tank this turret. Nikwu, he is fairly tanky, but the minion wave is gone. There's the hook onto Nico the cat. He will actually be able to get out of there, so he is going to be safe. But Kelsey Jeong is actually low mana, so they could pressure him a little bit. Chuuper, he's getting some nice harass, though, on parole.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's that poke from Chuuper, or from Graves. Oh! Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
Nick Wu
From
coming in.
Draven.
There's the kill after the exhaust from Kelsey-Jeong. They will back off. Chuuper was getting himself pretty low, but he was able to exchange enough to force him back. And then Dagon dropping a ward to not allow any pressure. We'll actually use the ultimate on V-Man if he can pick up the kill, the W as well. One Ignite and one more Q will be able to grab it. He flashes for it, the auto attack. He picks him up. So Dagon just absolutely wrecking V-Man in this mid lane.
Yeah, that's really bad position for Evelyn. Evelyn, of course, needs to get in close to do a lot of damage. So being able to put Evelyn that far behind is going to be a really big issue for Fornot going into the mid game. And Evelyn is going to have a really hard time farming from this point because Orianna can be this aggressive. So it's going to take a lot of jungler help to help Evelyn get back in the game.
Yeah, so we'll see how that lane progresses, but having that, you know, really aggressive laner, like we've been talking about, has worked out. In the meantime, top lane is still pretty even. Dagon, he does pick up that blue, but Fornot, you know, they've been putting on a lot more pressure than the previous game from that top lane, but you know, the early advantages are no more. 2K gold advantage for Chuuper. Nick Wu is being very aggressive in the jungle once again. We haven't really seen a lot from Mundo. The shield from Lee Sin, really tricky play there to get in range of one bad bread.
That was a pretty awesome move. Just looking at different ways to actually do damage to a Jace that's just sitting back and poking. And that's really great use of a ward and the mobility of Lee Sin to get into position for that Q and you know, just hit him here and there and do the damage where he can. And we're seeing a great way for Lee Sin to handle Jace.
And you have to be kind of tricky as Lee Sin to get off that damage. Nico is fairly low, will use his W onto Kelsey-Jeong to try and get him out of there. And Chuuper's fairly low as well, but Nico is zoned. They're chasing out Parole, so he's trying to get him, but Chuuper will be able to chase down Lulu, so he's most likely going to go down. Nick Wu as he's coming in. V-Man considering coming in range, and Nico is just way too fast for him. They can't catch up to him, actually. So V-Man could maybe zone them off a little bit or go in for another kill with Parole. He does use his Q, trying to get in on Kelsey-Jeong. And Nico, I still can't believe that Nick Wu hasn't caught up to him, finally catches him and picks up that kill.
Yeah, I had to use that ultimate to close the gap, I think so. That was the only way they could take out Lulu with Lulu's speed. I mean, generally she's a pretty slow champion, but she has the ability to speed herself up and make a little bit of an escape.
So we'll be safe, but right now V-Man, he's looking for the kill. He wants to get it up top if he might dive in on Chuuper with the Graves. Graves doesn't have his ultimate right now, so it would be kind of difficult. Blitzcrank, you know, he still has his passive. The hook onto Parole, though, he's going to drop very quickly. V-Man coming in range, though. Parole gets some nice damage, and Blitzcrank will most likely go down. V-Man trying to get him, but Chuuper has him zoned off. One less Q, picks up the kill. Chuuper will be able to chase down V-Man a little bit, but that kill, it will allow V-Man to get back in this game some.
Yeah, absolutely. Before that fight, it was level 6 Evelyn versus, in the mid, an Orianna who's level 9. So, and the farm as well, significant farm advantage. Orianna is huge, and Evelyn is kind of just scrapping by right now, just trying to stay in the game any way she can. And the way she's doing that is investing a lot of time into other lanes. She spent a lot of time in that bush up top to make sure they got that kill happen. Make sure that kill happened, and as a result, you know, it paid off a little bit. However, if it hadn't paid off, imagine how far behind Evelyn would have been. So Evelyn continuing to make plays, but really is taking a lot of risks to make that happen.
Yeah, but you have to take risks as Evelyn.
Yeah, that's your point.
If you want to get some kills, she's a risky champion. She's an assassin. But I don't know, we'll see. She's so far behind right now, like you've been saying. They do pick up that top turret, but Blitzcrank is trying to get in range to slow them down for Chuuper, try and get that pop-up, but they're actually doing a really nice job of kiting and harassing him. The exhaust goes off on the Chuuper, and Nico the Cat throws off the ultimate, and now they turn around on their pursuers. Parole, can he get it? No, just barely out of range of Chuuper, so they will be able to back off, but we'll see how that lane progresses.
Yeah, really scary situation for Chuuper's troopers. The tower is down. Luckily, Shyvana's coming up, but Evelyn's there too. So we're going to actually see some sort of skirmish here happen pretty quick.
And V-Man 7 coming into Kelsey-Jeong will drop him pretty quickly, but the exhaust, the hook, he drops himself, so he's just way out of position. JD Wu trying to chase down Dagon, but probably doesn't have enough to tank him under turret, so he will back off. And all the meanwhile, bot lane, they've been pretty comfortable with farming, you know, just going back and forth between themselves. I Am Terra has done a really nice job of chasing into one bad Brad, and usually you see Jace exchanging damage very effectively, but just not enough. Lee Sin's just too tanky. He's just able to exchange himself. And so Lee Sin actually has a nice little advantage on him over Jace right now.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at that, actually. And Lee Sin just getting to go in and get a lot of free farm at this point, forcing Jace back again. And actually, Jace is headed top right now, so I think going to try to make some plays, or we can actually probably expect a lane swap and see Graves and Lulu go bot, maybe to try to handle against Lee Sin. But Lee Sin, like you mentioned earlier, he's really, it's a skill matchup whenever you play him. Like, he has the tools to beat anybody. It's just a matter of how well you can use those tools.
Yeah, and it seems that he can use them very well. So, you know, the only lane that's behind for Chuuper right now is that top lane. So that's, you know, kind of an interesting situation. It's kind of different from last game. But once they start grouping up, Evelyn is just completely shut down. Like, Evelyn needs to thrive at this point in the game. This is the point where, you know, you need to run around and pick up kills on Evelyn. You need to bully people around and try and snowball. Because once they're starting to group as a team, Orianna and Shyvana will have so much control over fights, it's going to be very difficult for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned that they're losing in the top lane, and I think they can kind of expect that with such a heavy pushing lane like Lulu Graves. You're going to have a hard time in lane handling that kind of damage output, that kind of wave clearing. And so just the fact that have they died at all, actually? So, yeah, they died a few times. So, you know, so a couple deaths here and there, but, you know, you can expect to kind of lose that lane a little bit.
Yeah, and they have swapped bottom, so they weren't able to get the tower themselves for Troopers, but we'll see if Fornot can continue on this pressure, because if they can, that could help pull the rest of their team up. Despite the fact that they're down 4K right now, their bot lane could pull them back into this game, and that constant pressure for the bot lane could pull Troopers out of position where they're not able to deal with anyone very effectively, and I don't know, open up an easier lane for Jace in particular. So Jace, 40 CS behind, 14 minutes in, 125 CS, 14 minutes in for Lee Sin. So he's basically getting every last hit that he wants. He's, you know, there's just nothing that Jace can do to shut him down. JD Root will run into Blitzcrank, though. Shyvana is here as well with the red buff, and they are actually clearing them very quickly. Nico the Cat and JD Root almost go down. Parole is stuck in the middle of them with that exhaust, and the hook back will be able to pick up that kill onto Lulu, but they're actually just ignoring her for a second. Make sure they can grab Parole. One more attack, the Flame Spitter grabs it, and then Nico the Cat is actually barely going to get past this tower. He actually might get out of there.
Yeah, and this is a situation where you're going to chase Lulu for a long time trying to get that kill, waste some time, and it's actually going to be a little bit, you know, pretty beneficial to 4Nothing for having her roam like that, trying to run away for such a long time.
Yeah, she was trying to kill herself on the tower, but couldn't quite get there, so Orianna picks it up. But I don't know, we'll see what kind of pressure Shyvana starts putting on the map, because she's been moving all over the place. She's 4-0-1 right now, and it is allowing Chuuper to get back into this. And despite the fact that they were losing that bot lane matchup, which was in the top lane, they are now in a position to take down this bot turret and allow Chuuper to get farmed into that game. So, you know, we'll see if Fornot can, you know, try and make their comeback, try and push themselves back in. Graves not farming very well, despite the fact that he had an advantage over Draven. Like, Draven is just, you know, insanely behind in farm at this point. But Graves, only 95 CS, 15 minutes in. Not, you know, terrible, but he's not in a position where he can, you know, pick up a bunch of gold and pick up any early kills or anything like that. So he will have that BF sword when he comes back. That's definitely key for him to finish that Bloodthirster, or if he decides to go with it, Infinity Edge.
Yeah,
but they're not in a situation where they could win fights if Troopers decided to start pressuring them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of that comes out of the fact that Shyvana is an amazing mid-game, super tanky champion, and give her 4 kills and an assist this early on, and she's going to be remarkably hard to kill. And, you know, she falls off pretty hard in terms of damage late game, but in the mid-game, it's pretty fierce. With that W, she's going to chase you, and with the Q, she's going to hit you.
Oh, he missed the ward.
Ouch.
Actually reminded me of that Scar video.
Yeah.
Scar is trying to drop the wards and can't quite get it.
Because he's bad at this game.
And he hates it.
And he hates it. So, but yeah, Shyvana is going to be a real terror onto 4Nothing in this mid game, and that's really where Shyvana really shines. And I'm Evelyn 1-5, another risk taken with his champion instead of going with maybe a safer pick, and it's costing him 1-5 this early into the game on a champion who needs a lot of farm and that needs to get close to do damage. So it's actually a really bad position for Evelyn to be in at this point.
And they do have the double shields with the Evelyn ult and with the Lulu ultimate, but I don't know, it'll be interesting to see whether or not that's enough to protect her Chuuper's Troopers, they do grab that dragon, but actually it seems that Fornot's trying to force a fight, and they're completely split, so they don't have the best situations. Blitzcrank can't get the hook onto Graves, very close there, while Orianna and Lee Sin are zoning them off, so they're not able to force the fight that they would like to. Lee Sin with the shield, though, he gets the slow, and there's the ultimate from Orianna. They pick up the kill quickly, but Parole is turning it around, takes down Dagon with the help of V-Man 7, and then they group on him. So despite the fact that originally Chuuper's Troopers had the better positioning, they actually pulled themselves out of positioning, and Fornot swallowed them.
Yeah, got really aggressive. You know, they didn't expect that word to be there, and Lee Sin was there and trying to make some plays happen, but ended up costing him really huge. I really like the flashiness of that play, but in the end, it actually cost him dearly.
He looked good doing it.
Yeah, he sure did,
didn't
he?
quite work out. But Blitzcrank, another hook onto Parole. Parole will continue to farm. And Draven actually trying to farm versus the top. Brad chasing him down. One more attack. He's going to pick up that kill with the hammer swing. So Draven just doesn't have the mobility to deal with Jace. And since Jace does actually have a level advantage from having a solo lane for most of the game, it's a pretty tough matchup.
Yeah, absolutely. Fornot is actually doing exactly what they need to do to get back in this game. You know, they probably wouldn't have won a team fight, a 5v5 team fight, because of the tankiness of Shyvana and just some of the early game damage coming out of Chuuper's team. However, they're catching people out of position. They're punishing over aggressiveness, and they're slowly climbing back into this game. What was like a 5K deficit is now
just over 2K.
Yeah, just over 2K. So
and they have 3 turrets compared with just the 1 turret for Chuuper's Troopers. So they have huge map control advantage right now. And by constantly pushing all those lanes, they open up those small skirmish fights that they want to have with Evelynn.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully, I mean, Evelynn is really going to make or break this game, I think, because right now, getting into the middle of a fight, she won't be able to do a whole lot of damage before she's burned down. So she'll get her ultimate off, but not a lot of that sustained damage that you're going to need to win a team fight. So hopefully, can continue to crawl back into this game, can continue to farm well, and can try to make some plays. However, Orianna there, 6-1 with significantly more farm. It's going to be a real issue.
The key for Fornot, though, is to constantly pressure all the lanes. Just push all the lanes up. By pushing the lanes, it prevents Chuuper's Troopers from ever having an opportunity to push any towers, and it also, it pulls them out of position, like we've been saying. So I'm a little bit surprised they don't have an Oracles yet. Oh, no, JD Woot, he does have an Oracles. So he'll be able to, clear out some of those wards, which is really key. They want to have that map control and not allow Chuuper's Troopers to just ward the map.
Yeah, absolutely. Mundo is getting into a scary phase of the game as well, but Lee Sin getting caught out by Jace. Evelyn's here also to do some damage. The kick out from Lee Sin, but it's going to be really close. He's going to get out, and the poke from Jace is enough to bring him down. So again, just out of position champions coming out of Chuuper and getting punished hard by Fornot.
And it's because Chuuper, they're not quite sure that they can group up as a team yet. Even with the gold advantages that they have, they haven't made the commitment to push down a tower, and they just kind of want to continue to farm and get their champions into that late game. But by doing that, they're splitting themselves up and opening up opportunities for kills for Fornot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe a little bit of that is overconfidence too. Just thinking go out and play a little bit sloppy and still get kills. It's definitely costing them. And then Jace up here at the top, just continuing to farm, hang out, build his lead.
Look at how he's caught up to Lee Sin, because he was 40, almost 50 CS behind not that long ago. Lee Sin was at 130 when he was at like 90, and now he's just 10 behind Lee Sin.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the hook from Blitzcrank, Mundo is right underneath the team. The Lulu shield not enough to hold him back. Orianna's able to kite, so it's actually a 4v2 that goes in Chuuper's Troopers' favor, and they're still trying to chase down V-Man. The double buff is on the Dagon, so he will be able to pressure them out. So they don't have the potential to get these kills. Shyvana, Nick Wu, he can get the ultimate, not actually going to go for it. V-Man 7 backing up as well, but this is actually a great opportunity for them to push, and this is what they needed. They had the gold lead. They needed opportunities where they could try and pressure turrets, pressure objectives, so they're going to take this mid turret fairly quickly. Yeah,
absolutely, especially with Mundo down, the tanky body on Fornot's team, not going to be there to absorb a lot of that damage and to do that, that early game damage that Mundo can do. Oh, and the barely missed grab from Blitzcrank, and they're burning down this turret really fast, just continuing to push.
And they'll be able to back off, but now they've built back their gold lead. It's now back up to a 5K gold lead, so very quickly getting back into this. And once they group, that's just going to make things so difficult for Evelynn. Evelynn actually going with the Abyssal Scepter, so she won't instantly die. And instead of going for that DFG, dying is usually a bad thing, but I don't know, we'll see what kind of pressure she can put on with that. It will help amplify her damage as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Evelyn's still someone who benefits strongly from the Abyssal after the nerf to the range on the debuff. So she's, yeah, I definitely like that pick. I can definitely see DFG coming up next.
Yeah, absolutely.
For her. Yeah, just to do tons of damage.
Yeah, it will do tons of damage. So we'll see, what kind of pressure they can put on. But Orianna, actually, I'm kind of curious if she's going to go for a Banshees or just a really late Rod of Ages. The Catalyst, it is a very strong laning item, so she primarily used it for that earlier. But it did go for the Rabadons after that. So she wants just that quick burst damage. She wants to be able to just drop Evelynn instantly. And that's kind of key for Evelynn. You need to just insta-kill her. And against the double shield, that could be kind of difficult. So, if Evelynn is able to survive through some of that burst damage, she might be able to take control of a fight. Graves, his short range could be a vulnerability against the Orianna and Shyvana as well. So that's going to be kind of difficult for them, even though Graves has done pretty well so far, for them to get him involved in these fights.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm looking at Lee Sin's build, getting pretty tanky now. With that armor, with that Bloodthirster, it's going to be doing a significant amount of damage. And so Lee Sin has the gold to make him a significant presence in this game. We've mentioned him before, Lee Sin needs items and needs gold, and he definitely has that 193 farm at 23 minutes. That's serious.
Oh, Lee Sin trying to get the steal. Shyvana actually gets it, so Nick Wu with the smite steal. And there's the hook. JD Wu is very low, but the Lulu ultimate just barely keeps him alive. Nick Wu is on the back line, though. He's zoning off one bad Brad, but he does go down, and they are trying to chase down the rest of the team. Fornot is still grouped up together, and B-Man actually coming in the back line trying to grab Orianna, but Lee Sin is there. He has his back. One bad Brad comes in, picks up the kill on the Blitzcrank, and they will try and chase down Lee Sin some, but actually a one fight for Fornot, and I think is JD Wu. He's going for it. He wants to get the cleave over the back wall. Can't quite find Orianna, and will back off for this time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that Lulu and Mundo connection where Mundo has the ultimate up, he's getting that regen, and just he's huge from the Lulu ultimate too, just makes him extremely difficult to kill, and he's going to be doing a lot of damage just hanging out in the team fight. And we actually saw a lot of that play. Dignitas, I think, was one of the first people to do that at IPL4, and they knew the connection between Lulu and Mundo was really good. And we saw it in that fight. Mundo was doing a lot of damage and was not going down.
Yeah, he has plenty of damage, if you can just boost him, Soraka as well. But kind of the interesting thing is, against Mundo, with having that much HP, it completely counters any sort of AP champions that you might have. So it counters out Orianna. Orianna just can't do enough damage to take down Mundo. Really, you need 80 carries. You need an 80 carry of enough strength. But one bad Brad, he walks right into the bush and right into Nick Wu. He was baited in by Lee Sin, the pro bait. He does get out of there. But so Orianna won't have enough damage to take down Mundo. They really need a strong AD carry. And not only is Draven behind, but if Mundo is chasing down Draven, he's not going to be as comfortable as he would normally be to get off the damage that he likes, which is actually partially the reason why Mundo is such a strong pick in this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Draven's going to have a really hard time in the late game being this far behind. He's not scaling as hard as he needs to. He's not farmed as well as he needs to be. And Graves is a champion who, 1 kill and 5 assists, 197 farm, can do a lot with that little gold.
Oh, but I think Nick Wu, he wants to steal this blue over the wall. There's the hook, and actually Evelynn is caught out, but the Lulu ultimate keeps her alive, and she just barely gets out of there with the W. She's just way too fast. JD Wu is able to pick up that blue very quickly and back out of there, but they are in a dangerous situation. Actually, Dagan flashes over the wall with the Orianna ultimate. Pro as hell. He picks up the kill against JD Wu, and they will be able to try and pressure them some now.
Yeah, Dagan is going really ham, just going really hard, flashing in, risking a lot of things to get those kills. An 8-1-1 on Orianna, 182 farm, and puts him in a great position to take this Baron and just leverage a huge lead against 4Nothing.
He is hard carrying this game, and actually Fornot, they're trying to pressure it. The Blitzcrank hook does not hit on Nico the Cat, but one bad Brad is trying to poke them down, and they're not taking the Dragon as fast as they would like. The exhaust, and they're chasing into him. He does flash out of there, though, and they've been able to stall this, so really nice job, but Chuuper is here as well, and there is no pressure on him. He will be able to chase down Lulu, and they can try and pick her off. One bad Brad coming in the background. They just keep on kiting them, and they're kiting very effectively in these fights. V-Man is trying to go for it. They're going for the kill. They are all so very, very low. Nika the Cat trying to chase them out of there as Lee Sin is coming in with the Q. He will be able to chase them down, gets the slow onto Lulu, and she will most likely go down. There's the hook over the wall. No, but Chuuper, knocking him out of range, is able to pick it up.
Yeah, that was a really good... Actually, I was really impressed with the fighting out of 4Nothing.
Oh, V-Man, he's going for it. He wants the kills, but he's in such a dangerous spot.
Man.
He goes down himself.
Didn't know Shyvana was there, I'm pretty sure, with that ward in the top bush. Evelyn just playing really aggressive when probably shouldn't be playing aggressive at this point. And it's a little bit unsafe for her. But yeah, 4Nothing did a good job of hiding. And Jace is just going in hard too. And oh my gosh, he's getting burned down really quick. Mundo's there to try to save him. Oh, and Shyvana goes down too. Mundo with a ton of that mid-game damage. Look at all that life. He is a beast right now.
Yeah, so they get the turnaround. It is, you know, an exchange, again, in Fornot's favor. They've been able to pull themselves back and forth this entire time. So we'll see, you know, what kind of pressure that we'll see out of Chuuper's Troopers. But having the Evelyn turning around and getting into this game, she was so far behind, but she's starting to put some pressure. Really, the rest of her team is just lifting her on their back. Like, yeah. V-Man 7... Evelyn doesn't look very large, but that is one nasty tango partner because she's just going to crush you. So I don't know, but we'll see what kind of pressure Evelyn can go with this.
Yeah, we'll see. It's going to be interesting. Mundo, I mean, actually not as fed as I thought he was going to be. He's just so tanky in the mid game. He's tanky all the time. He's really huge right now. He's just absorbing a lot of damage. Oh, and the Blitzcrank's pull on Lulu, and Oriana's there to slow, to do a bunch of damage. The shield goes up, and I don't know if you're getting out. No, you're not, Lulu. Yes, you are, Lulu. You're getting out. Graves diving in, trying to do some damage with the AoE, with the Q and the ultimate, and Chuuper's just going to back out, but Lulu almost going down. Thank goodness you.
Oh, the Draven ultimate. Will it pick it up? It's very close. Almost grabbing Lulu. No. Will it get it on the back? Oh, he picks it up. Chuuper. Chuuper with the Draven ultimate.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Well played to Chuuper on Draven. You know, he hasn't had a whole lot of presence in this game, but he sure did right there. That was an amazing ultimate, catching out Lulu. And I'm sure he's feeling really good about himself right now.
He's like, hey guys, did you check that out? Did you check that out? But they are going for Baron once again. Another hook, but it's pulling Mundo in. Mundo steals it after the hook. He hooked him in range to steal it. He flashes out. Shyvana trying to chase him down. Jace, he gives him the movement speed boost with the acceleration gate, so he gets the steal and he gets out of there.
Oh,
Fornot. I cannot believe where this game is going right now.
That was pretty cool. Yeah, so hooking Mundo into the Baron pit and allowing him just to smite down Baron like that. A little bit of an oversight on that grab. Probably didn't think that was going to happen, but it's actually going to cost him a lot, actually. And so a significant amount of gold, that Baron buff, and it's going to be a little bit harder for Chuupers to push down and try to make a play and end this game.
Yeah, so we'll see what kind of pressure they can put on it. Jace, in the meantime, being brazen, being bold, being beautiful, going for the red buff. He takes it out, and the rest of the team will, you know, try and catch him out. They don't really have very good vision right now, though. They had a lot of vision around the Baron buff because they thought, you know, they were in that kind of offensive mindset. So they have, you know, aggressive ward coverage as opposed to, you know, defensive wards back in their base. But with that Baron buff on Fornot, they can start to push back into Chuuper and, you know, put on some of that pressure, try and pick up those kills.
Yeah, I mean, I can count a lot of games that were turned around because of a Baron steal. They thought they were safe, and that's actually the reason a lot of teams, when they're really ahead, they won't go for Baron, because that's the one possible thing that can bring your opponent back into the game, is to steal that Baron buff, get that additional gold and that experience, and it's going to be a really positive thing for 4Nothing. They're going to actually, you know, it might be the thing that helped them turn around and get back in the game.
Yeah, and right now, Chuupers, for a long time, they've been ahead in this game, but they never really saw an opportunity. They didn't understand how to pull themselves into it, or how to pull themselves ahead. Like, they just weren't sure.
Unintended, or...
Do we push? Do we, you know, go for Baron or something? And so they kind of put themselves in this bad situation. Fornot, they're able to take down that bot turret. They will be able to continue to pressure Chuuper. And I wouldn't expect them to push aggressively on any defended turrets, just because that's going to open them up to a Shyvana Oriana combo. But if they just keep on moving around, back and forth around the map, then they're going to continue to pull Chuuper out of position. They're going to continue to open up these opportunities for these quick skirmish fights that they've been doing well in.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually getting a little concerned for Chuuper because they don't have a whole lot of late game damage. You're looking at Orianna, Draven, not the greatest in late game damage when compared to Graves. And then the tankiness actually coming out of 4Nothing. Frozen Heart on Jace. Mundo with the Warmog, so there's some serious tankiness. Of course, Graves with that passive can get a little bit tanky too. And then the Lulu ultimate, it really adds to that whole thing. And so it's going to be actually pretty hard for Chuuper to burn down 4Nothing at this point. They're getting pretty big.
Yeah, and you need that AD carry, but you know, Draven's not going to pull them into this one, so we'll see what they can do. Lee Sin is very strong as well, but you know, Lee Sin, his fighting potential at this point is kind of questionable. He's you know, he can do some fancy tricks. He, you know, throws his legs behind his head. He's really flexible, but he doesn't have the damage output you need to take down some of the tanks from Fornot at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, Lee Sin does excel at diving to that back lane. You know, you can kick the AD carry out. Not as relevant in the team fight. Except Graves really isn't like the really big concern right now. Graves isn't as fed as maybe Mundo or especially Jace. So I mean, it's not going to be as big of a factor as you'd hope it to be. And so that's going to be a real problem. Like you said, Lee Sin, not a lot of damage right now.
Yeah, but Blitzcrank, he's waiting over the wall. He wants to get a hook, and he can't help himself. He always has to go for them, but he is kind of caught out. He wants to regroup with his team. Jace trying to poke them down, and they're actually sitting outside of this tower. Another hook on the Mundo will get the knockup, but he walks out of there easily, not taking any damage. And with the Baron regen, they can be aggressive right now because they know that Troopers can't really poke them down, while Jace can just slowly wear them down.
Oh man, 4Nothing slowly pushing, crawling back in this game, and it's all a result of that awesome Baron steal. What was, I believe, an 8K gold deficit is now shrank to around 5K. So slowly,
it's kind
but
of fluctuated all game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's usually
it's
gold
a
does.
sinusoidal kind of function for gold.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but yeah,
it's math.
It's fancy. Yeah, so I mean, really, Chuuper just needs to sit tight, kind of wait out that Baron buff. Just play it safe. Hopefully get like a nice grab on one of the squishier champions. Oh, but getting poked down because I know exactly where he's at. And, you know, this is actually looking really good for 4Nothing at this point.
Yeah, they have a lot of AoE damage. They have really strong teamfight control. They can kite very easily, as we've seen throughout most of this game. And Jace is just continually wearing them down. Troopers right now, they're waiting for someone to get out of position. They're waiting so they can have that perfect ultimate and just burst down Evelynn and Graves. But their positioning right now is not allowing them to. So they're playing very safe. They're just poking at them. And there's the Orianna ultimate. They might get this combo here. The Draven ultimate as well. Shyvana jumping in the middle of them. They do back off though. And there's no follow-up from Troopers. Despite the fact that they had a really strong fight initiation, they didn't do anything after that. They couldn't continue. They couldn't finish.
Yeah, definitely a lot of poke that's going to force 4Nothing back and allow Troopers to kind of get out of the base, spread their wings, and fly.
But hopefully not too close to the sun, because we all have heard those stories. So
wow.
we'll see where Troopers goes with it. You know, that does help stall off that Baron buff. It is very close to dropping. Where's the Baron buff? I don't actually see it. So I guess I'll check someone else. Yeah, so they actually, I guess they have lost the Baron buff. It's just a graphical issue, maybe.
No, that's fun.
But yeah, so I guess it's either still up or it's close to. If it's not, it's down or it's close to going down. And just being able to force them back, it will allow them to, you know, stall out Fornot a little bit and bring them back into a position where they can fight equally.
Yeah, absolutely. Mundo just so tanky and scary right now. You know, I'm concerned that they're gonna get a little bit too tanky for Chuuper to handle, and it's gonna be an ugly situation. But really, I mean,
I think
Chuuper,
they're almost already there.
Yeah,
I mean,
it is pretty scary. I'm scared.
They were able to drop them pretty low, but they didn't have the follow-up. They weren't able to chase them down. They weren't able to root them in place. So
yeah. Also, Blitzcrank wasn't there for that little initiation. So
yeah,
in most times you can grab one of the people that you initiate on, hold them back, and it becomes a 4v5, and that's when you can go out and push. But
or, you know, just pull Mundo into your AD carry.
Yeah, and then steal the Baron.
And steal the Baron.
Yeah, that's also a good time too. So it looks like the Baron's about to go up, even though they graphically still have the Baron. Oh, they're just warding them.
They're going to get a second Baron. I think it still has, yeah, oh, there it is. So it is back up again. So they are going to pressure it. There's the hook over the wall. Did they actually? No, just barely not grab anyone.
Oh my gosh.
But they do grab that ward there. Jace, in the meantime, he's able to grab the dragon. So he knows that his team already has pressure up in the top. He is a GA for himself as well. So he can continue. Jace has been the frontline guy for this game, and he's been poking them down. He wants to be aggressive, but that actually leaves him vulnerable to Blitzcrank. So he doesn't want that to happen. He doesn't want to get hooked and die and, you know, blow it for his team. So the GA will help him out there, and he's already very tanky. Actually, Parole is actually going for a GA as well, so we'll see if he's able to get that. But Chuupers, they're playing pretty defensively right now. They're trying to get vision of that Baron pit. They don't have any ward coverage there. The Oracles from Mundo has given them that advantage, but we'll see if they can try and force a fight. They might just split push Jace.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad call in this situation. You mentioned earlier that he is a good split pushing champion. So when that comes back, just clearing it up a little bit, and not quite as effective as maybe an Ezreal ultimate in that situation, but still rather good. And then, but that's actually not going to give them...
to defend it though. He's going to take this tower.
Is he? It looks like
he's very close to taking it.
Yeah, and here they go. They're going to go try to do Baron with Jace over at that tower. So we'll see how that goes down. But again, Mundo can go kind of be a beast and go in there and try to steal something. Meanwhile, Jace is going to get an inhibitor even off of this. And this could actually be really, really bad for Chuuper's troopers.
Yeah, he is going to get an inhibitor. So the only question is, can Fornot defend 4v5? But it doesn't matter. Jace is coming in, but they do get the Baron. So it is 5v5, but Chuuper's troopers has the Baron. Jace jumping in, and there's the Orianna ultimate, but they drop down Orianna very quickly. V-Man7 is a monster right now. He picks up Chuuper, and they're going to be able to win this fight. Shyvana ulting into the back line, but V-Man7 has snowballed it, and Fornot is in a great position to win this game. Not only do they have that base turret, but they also have 4 members up, so they pick up another tower. JD Wu trying to get the slow. He hits the cleaver onto Lee Sin. They do pick this up. There is the last fight.
Oh, nice.
Just barely going down. I am Terra being a beast, gets a double kill in the middle of their team.
Oh, man.
But we'll see if they can push down an inhibitor. They still have plenty of time. JD Wu, he is moving right for it. Is he not going to go for it? Don't go for the farm. Go for the inhibitor. He's not going to go for the inhibitor.
No, he sure isn't. So that's an unfortunate situation. I'm not quite sure if he would have made it to the end.
Yeah, it is questionable.
Yeah, Blitz is going to be up in 6 seconds, so it probably wouldn't have happened. However,
it takes about 20 seconds to get from, or 15 seconds to get from mid down to bot.
Yeah, what clutch play out of Lee Sin in that situation? What would have become probably maybe the tier 2 and the tier 3 tower is now maybe just the tier 2 tower. So really good from Lee Sin, just knowing when you're going to die and going and trying to do as much damage as possible, and that resulted in 2 kills and, you know, a little better turnaround for Chuuper.
They actually get 2 tier 2 towers,
Nice.
Jace and Mundo splitting up, and they get a really nice push there. And One Bad Brad, despite falling behind early to Lee Sin, like Lee Sin was just a monster laner, One Bad Brad has really pulled this game back with his Jace play. He's been able to catch up and farm. He's, you know, doing very well for himself now, but also the split pushing has been putting so much pressure on them, and now that teleport up late game is just phenomenally powerful for that split pushing, and he was able to get those turrets down bot. So we'll see. You know, it is still another 3 minutes left until his teleport is back up, but they might try and just keep split pushing him once that teleport's up and just allow him to take their base.
Yeah, absolutely. He is a really strong, safe split pushing champion for the most part because, well, not only because of the teleport, but just his ability to knock away the opponent and run away with that speed boost. So it puts him in a great position to split. And Evelyn getting back in this game, 5-8, down from 1-5, or up from 1-5 at the start of the game. 214 farms, so actually do a lot of damage, and that's actually one of the strengths in the late game from Evelyn is her ability to get into the back and do a lot of damage to the AD carry. And
she took down both Orianna and Chuuper on Draven in the last fight.
Yeah, so tons of damage coming out of Evelyn, and that's she's a bit scary in that regard.
Yeah, so we'll see what kind of pressure they can put on. One Bad Brad, he is going into the bottom lane. Chuuper, you know, they do have a decent team fight team. They don't have quite enough AD damage. Draven hasn't been quite strong enough to, you know, pick up those fights, and he has been vulnerable because there's so many champions from Fornot that can get into the back line, and now Parole is unfortunately lagging. So hopefully he'll be back in a second. But, you know, while we're waiting, why not go back? We got a little rewind function. We'll check back in time and you know, see that previous fight where Fornot had been able to pull ahead. and how much pressure Evelyn was able to put on in that fight.
Yeah, absolutely. So going in, just trying to take some Baron, just having a good time. Jace split pushing in that bottom lane, and Mundo and just poking and waiting for that engage. And at this point, I'm sure Chuuper thought they were in a good position with that Baron buff, but it just wasn't enough.
And there wasn't any pressure on V-Man. He just walked right around the side while everyone's attention was up front. And he came in behind with the Lulu ultimate and his own ultimate, which allowed him to just, survive through the damage. And they were all split. Like Lee Sin, he's just kind of running around through the beginning of the fight, not quite sure where to go. His GA pops. He was able to get the turnaround at the end, but Fornot, they just rushed them. Like as a team, they just, chased them down and just bullied them with their tanky lineup. And so Chuuper, they have a team that needs to keep in front of them. One last time, the double kill for I Am Terra. But Chuuper has a team, they need to keep, the enemy in front of them. They need to keep the pressure on that. They need to have a very organized fight with Shyvana in the front line tanking, since Shyvana is very tanky. With Orianna safe in the backline, with Chuuper and Draven safe in the backline. But they weren't able to because of the strong initiation from Fornot. They were able to just run right at them and force an up-close and personal fight. And there's no disengage for Chuuper to help them. There's no way to really pull off of Draven once the Shyvana and Orianna ultimates are down.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to commit. They have to commit hard, and that's going to be the downfall.
Oh, they're caught out though. B-Man 7, the Orianna ultimate, but he turns it around, almost picking up Dagon, but Dagon is able to grab it himself. He has the shield to keep himself alive. He picks up the kill, and now it is a 4v5 in their favor, and they can push into Fornot space. Yeah, this is where they really, really needed that. Chuuper is now in a good position to make something happen, and they can't win a 5v5. 4Nothing is just too tanky at this point, so they have to win those small skirmishes like you talked about, and then take an advantage where they can get it. So they're at 4v5 right now. Orianna is remarkably low, but luckily she pokes rather well. And gonna just try to poke down the tower, but man, just a lot of damage coming out of that Jace, coming out of the Graves. I don't know if they can do it. They just have to back off.
Yeah.
They thought they could maybe, pressure the tower some, but Lee Sin, despite how strong he's been through most of this game, he was worn down pretty quickly. Dagon almost dropped, they have to worry about the Jace picking him off in the back since V-Man had already gotten him very low. And they just have to back off. They can't push into Fornot right now, because they're not strong enough to just win in a straight-out fight against Fornot, so they can't, tank the turrets. But Fornot, they might actually catch someone off here. They might even just go in for it. They're going in for the turret. They will drop it very, very quickly, and there is no one to defend it from Chuuper. Yeah, absolutely. They saw that Draven was in that bot lane. They're like, push, time to go. Let's make this happen. Just get some objective, and that's what they did. They snuck up there, and once Evelyn rejoins them, it's going to be a really difficult place right now for Chuuper, with the poke coming out of 4Nothing from Jace, from Graves, from Lulu. They're going to have a really hard time containing this. Yeah, now Jace's teleport is actually back up again, so they could decide to split push. They could send, some of them top and Jace down bottom, but they are just continuing to pressure the mid, so they might be comfortable to just win a fight. Jace gets some poke. The Blitzcrank hook does not hit, but Jace is able to wear down Orianna a little bit. And because there's no turret in the bot, they lost the vision in the bot lane. And that actually would allow V-Man 7 to loop all the way around and come in from behind them, but he is actually just sticking with the team, so he doesn't want to be out of position. He's just going to stay with them and come in through the straight ahead route. Yeah, that would be a really cool play if he was to do that. It is pretty risky, he can get caught out, and maybe that's what they're thinking. Just play it really safe. You know you have an advantage, a rather big advantage at this point with such a tanky team. Just go play straightforward. He is coming in from behind if they can force the fight.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how Evelyn does a bunch of damage here. Blitzcrank looking for that pull, but dang, that's risky too. And Evelyn, it can just blow anyone up in a matter of seconds. Oh, just trying to get that grab. That would have been nice. But yeah, just having it fall back, and it's going to cost them an inhibitor in the situation. Oh, and they're going in. Here goes Shyvana. Flash out from Graves. Just going to hang out in the back and try to do a bunch of damage. Meanwhile, the knock up onto Jace. Jace's GA pops, and Draven staying in the back, trying to do some damage, but just doesn't do as much as he needs to be doing. Shyvana getting burned down too, and Graves cleaning up on Lee Sin. Lee Sin gonna go down pretty quick. I think his GA popped down at the bottom. Yes, it did. He's back up. Oh, and he gets burned down instantly, and that's gonna be an inhib and a 1-for-0 for 4-0, and they're in a really good position right now. Oh, and the grab onto Graves, but Graves a little bit.
Turn around against him. Kelsey almost going down. but it almost was a hook of death, and they will be able to take all 3 inhibitors. So Fornot, they've turned this around. They're going to be able to pressure into Chuuper's base very easily. And the last fight, their frontline tanks weren't taking enough. Draven didn't have enough damage to wear anyone down. His positioning was okay for most of it. He was able to keep himself safe. There was one point in the beginning of the fight where he actually just kind of walked right into Fornot and pulled himself out of position. But for the most part, he was safe, but he didn't have enough damage to take out anyone from Fornot. And Fornot was just slowly winning the fight. And now Chuuper, they're actually going for the Baron. They want to make sure they can defend it. We'll see if they actually just try and force it. A ward goes off, so they will not. But V-Man actually drops Draven.
Ouch.
And that killing potentially used his DFG. You can just instantly pick someone up. Nick Wu trying to chase him down, but V-Man is still baiting. He's pulling him into Parole for this kill, and then he will back off with that movement speed. Parole backs off as well, but they almost, pull him in far enough.
Yeah, pull Graves right in and kill your whole team. That would have been a bad situation. But yeah, there's that sneaky assassin properties of Evelynn. Evelynn gets burned down in an instant from Shyvana. Just a little bit out of position, being a little bit careless, and trying to back in a very unsafe spot. And Shyvana made him pay. Nick Wu, nice play from him. And then here you go, just starting up the Baron. Not a whole lot are there, but Mundo, you're tanking up. You can do whatever you want. Jace knocking away Blitzcrank. Oh, and a not good pull coming out of Kelsey Zhang. And it looks like this Baron's going to be pretty easy for 4Nothing to take.
Yeah, Brad has them completely zoned at this point. The Baron is down around half, but they're actually backing off of it. So they want to wait for Evelynn to be back up. They don't want to allow that 4v4, even though they have an AD carry while they have basically 2 AD carries with Jace, while there isn't one for Chuuper right now. So they actually go back in, and it didn't actually drop that much health, so it only regened a little bit. It is down to 5,000. They are zoning them off, and there is no initiation from Chuuper, but they back off once again. So they just continue to poke at it, but they're jumping in. They don't allow it to regen, so they're trying to see if they can bait them, see what happens. Shyvana jumps in, but Graves picks up the Baron, and now Nick Wu will drop very quickly. So a 4v4 that goes in Fornot's favor. They get the Baron, they get another kill, and in the meantime, Chuuper, all of the minions in the base, it is going to go down. There is nothing that Chuuper can do about it. He's been trying to hold off as long as he can. His team has not been there, but that Nexus is going to die. The rest of the team is there as well. They can just rush this Nexus, and Fornot is going to take the second game. They drop it very quickly. Game number 2 going to Fornot. So a turnaround after losing game 1.
Oh my gosh, wow, what an amazing turnaround it was. And it all started with that Baron steal. You know it did. So
I know it's true. You know it's true. Yeah, everyone knows it's true.
Girl, you know it's true. And yeah, pulling in Mundo right into Baron and just smite stealing it right out. And that was the turnaround for 4Nothing, able to come back.
He was too excited. Kelsey was like, oh, look at this. I can hook people, guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I feel.
Look, guys, I know how to hook.
Unprovoked pulls that don't even matter. Like, it was just a bad situation. I like what he was trying to do. Trying to burn him down quick. But,
Well, and also, if you can disable them, if you pull him in, you get the pop-up, you get the silence, you get, whatever disables, you can prevent him from smite stealing. You can prevent him from being able to do anything. So if they were concerned that he's going to run in and smite steal, he's like, all right, let me chain CC him. It's just it wasn't quite fast enough, and the timing wasn't quite there. He pulled him in just at the last second. He might have thought, hey, we've already secured this Baron. This Baron, look at it. It's so low. It's dead.
Yeah.
I'll just pull him in. It doesn't matter. And, we can pick up the kill and win the fight. But it turned against them, and they didn't have the AD damage. So it all started with Parole and Nico the Cat winning the top lane. And they had lost the bot lane in the previous game in what should have been a favorable matchup, but they didn't lose this one. They were able to bully around Chuuper, set him behind, even though Chuuper, at the end of the game, he finished with 360 CS. He had plenty of farm, plenty of damage. End of game, Draven's only a single target DPSer. He's not as strong as a number of other champions because of his lack of mobility. He has a really good attack speed steroid with his W, the movement speed as well, so that helps, that does bring him in. But Draven's you really want to be winning the mid game with Draven. Yeah. And they weren't able to do it. They weren't able to push in, even with their gold advantage.